Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy So, and welcome back to another Fight Rewind. Today, we're previewing Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Bud Crawford. And of course, you know I don't like to talk boxing unless I bring my main man, Victor Bermudez, on. What's going on, brother?
What's up, my dude? It's good to be back and good to be back for a big fight, huge fight,
Ooh.
biggest fight we've seen. I want to go back. I guess it would be Floyd, Conor McGregor, Floyd, Pacquiao, but this is a huge fight and something that the fight fans have been wanting to see for a really long time. And kudos to both guys. I know I say that often because that's what we've been seeing lately since Davis and Garcia got it started.
Yeah, man.
Boxing's here, man. Boxing's here.
Boxing's here and it's back, right? To like the way that it should be, right? We got these two guys in the prime of their careers, fighting for the undisputed welterweight championship. You know, Spence is putting up his WBC, IBF, and WA title on the line. Crawford's been owning the WBO for around 5 years now. And these guys are finally getting a chance to meet each other. And you know what? To counter your point that you made earlier, I think this is probably a bigger fight than Pacquiao and Mayweather, right? Because those guys were kind of, I don't want to say Mayweather was past the prime or Manny was past his prime, but they wouldn't have been the same exact peak of their careers. These two guys that are fighting on July 29th at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, these guys are in the peak of their careers right now, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I get the instant gratification wanting to have seen this fight 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, but I think this is the perfect time. I think both guys have now done a little bit to sort of prove themselves. I think Errol Spence Jr. has the better resume coming into this fight. I think he's shown the better pedigree of fighters he has to take on. I'm more impressed with what I see from Errol Spence Jr. and that record that I am with Terrence Crawford. But at the same time, Terrence is one of the greatest finishers in the sport of boxing. And we're talking about a guy that's gone from 140 to 147 and now looking make a name for himself. Not make a name for himself. Let me correct myself. Not at 147. He's done that. This is why we're here. But to solidify himself as the welterweight king, and he's at the top of the pound for pound list for a reason. And now he's looking to become that next big guy as far as pay-per-view sales and rival Canelo Alvarez, his new teammate in PBC.
Right.
If we could say, and it's great for boxing, great for PBC that these guys are getting together. So it'll be fun, man. Fireworks on July 29th.
Absolutely, bro. And let's talk a little bit about the fighters, man. You mentioned Errol Spence Jr., his resume. He's 28-0, 22 knockouts, 33 years old. Currently being trained by Derek James, who just got another guy that we talked about a lot about on the show, Ryan Garcia, won Trainer of the Year last year. This is a dude who has really fought the best of the best while they were in that division, right? Started his title run by beating Kell Brook, who was a solidified fighter or a solidified name in the boxing game, and a legit champion at the time, right? He even went to England for that fight and stopped him in the 11th round, kind of damaged him for life, right?
Yeah, people forget about that fight, and people forget where Errol went to go get that. So I love what he's done with his career, the way that he's been able to bounce back from the car crash. And you said it, Derek James. I'd asked Terrence Crawford a few weeks ago, what's going on in the state of Texas? He said, look, the state of Texas has been that way for a long time. They got plenty of guys coming out of Houston, back to the Raul Marquez days. So it's just what's going on in Texas. But there's a reason why everybody's coming over to him, including our boy Ryan Garcia, who we just mentioned. He's got it. That's how it goes in boxing. Freddie Roach had that for a while. Mikey Garcia's trainer now. Roberto Garcia had that going for a while. But Mayweather's dad had it with De La Hoya for some time. So, it goes through its spurts, and it seems like that's where it's at now with James. But Errol Spence Jr., that pedigree of a resume, as I mentioned before, it's just, to me, it's the more impressive out of the two. I don't think Terrence Crawford has had a really big fight since maybe 140 when he took on Yurioki Gamboa, as far as like an opponent up to that caliber of Terrence Crawford. Fought some guys, over his prime. I mentioned that to him. I said people think that the better resume belongs to Errol Spence Jr. Obviously, he took some offense to that. He didn't like that remark whatsoever. But he gets a chance on July 29th to prove that he's the better fighter. And despite the resume and the opponents, what they say, that he's the true welterweight king.
But I think the resume does speak well for Spence Jr., right? Like he destroyed Lamont Peterson. I think we saw that fight together. He like literally
Yep.
beat him down, right? Killed
Yep.
Carlos Ocampo, set up his first pay-per-view, fighting Mikey Garcia, who was another legit name in that division, right? And people were wondering how's this gonna pan out. And Crawford and Spence Jr. dusted him too, you know. Right after that, jumps into the ring with Sean Porter, destroys him, right? Gets to really outbox a guy who's fought championship level guys year in year out for that belt in that division. Let's say, if you look at his record from afar, you kind of have to agree that Spence Errol Jr.'s resume is definitely better.
Terrence would argue that the way he ended Sean Porter was a whole lot prettier. But look, I agree. Even though the Mikey Garcia victory comes with Mikey Garcia moving up 2 weight classes to take on Errol Spence Jr.,
True.
I didn't think Errol Spence Jr. could beat Mikey Garcia. It's just the path that Mikey Garcia was on, and we never saw Mikey Garcia look the way he did or as awkward as he did against Errol Spence Jr.
Yeah.
And that goes to show you what Errol brings to the table. It's a boxer with some power behind him. We saw it with the Yordenis Ugas fight, and what he did to that eye it's just he will put a beating on you, and he can do it for 12 rounds without taking much punishment. So it's going to be an interesting fight because, as we mentioned, Terrence Crawford can eliminate anyone at any given time. But these two guys, pure boxers, and it should be fun. It should be really fun to watch because both possess knockout power, but both move really eloquently in the ring.
Yeah, for sure. And Bud does have that reputation of being a finisher, right? He's 30 knockouts with a 39-0 victory. So this guy definitely knows how to finish fights or at least make fighters quit. But they do have two common opponents, right? Which was Kell Brook and Sean Porter. And if you look at it, right, like, yeah, you know, Sean Porter definitely got destroyed by Bud. Spence kind of destroyed Brook's career, so it's kind of a wash. But if you look at the rest of the fights and how when he got his belt and who he fought, including Jose Benavidez Jr., who was a killer in that division, right, and had a big hype behind him for his knockout power, Bud was able to step to the plate. Although he didn't really leave his home state of Nebraska, right? But he went out there and fought names that were available to him. Maybe there were a lot of guys ducking him at that time. Do you think that that's what kind of kept him from those other championship opportunities?
I think what kept him was the obvious reason, and the reason why he's at PBC right now. I think it was Top Rank, and that's been well documented. His frustrations. Mikey Garcia had frustrations with Top Rank. Floyd Mayweather Jr. had his frustrations with Top Rank as well. Like a lot of guys have. Delfimo has shown that, and it's just for some reason Bob Arum and Top Rank, the way they do business, it just hasn't gone well for certain fighters. Bud being one of those. And he just felt that Bob Arum couldn't promote to his liking and get him the big fights he wanted. He did re-sign with him at one point, hoping to get those big fights. Those fights didn't come to fruition. So he decided to part ways and join PBC Al Heyman. And this is the right move for Bud Crawford and right move for all boxing fans because here we are. July 29th, Showtime pay-per-view. And best part about it is what he told. I had no idea what he mentioned to me about 2 weeks ago when we did have that sit down is there is a rematch clause. So it's not like we're going to be, get this on July 29th and it's just going to go away and we're going to be upset because there is a rematch clause that we should be seeing a rematch ran back in 2024. Vegas would be the site for that as well, just like this one. Dallas was never up an option. I thought I butted it up to Bud, knowing the fight, the welterweight division, and what this fan base has been wanting for so long. I was present at AT&T Stadium when Canelo Alvarez fought Billy Joe Saunders. I saw what 73,000 people could do in that building. And then you take into account where Errol Spence Jr. is from. I know he's up from the New York area, born up there, but raised in Texas, has fought at the AT&T arena numerous times, or stadium numerous times. I just felt like this fight could easily put 80,000 into that stadium, because of the dynamics of where Nebraska is and Dallas and how close those regions are. But had no interest in going to a site where Errol Spence Jr. would be the heavy favorite. So it's going to be in Vegas, and the rematch will be ran back in Vegas, supposedly, from according to him. But I totally expect this to break tons of look, we saw with Davis and Garcia what they did at the gate. Top 5. I totally anticipate that happening with this fight, especially being in the month of July, where you got NBA players off, you got football players just in training camp that can escape for maybe a night or two. It's just going to be
a mega fight.
arguably the biggest event of the summer, and by far the fight of the year, because I don't see anything being able to rival that. Not even Canelo making his return to PBC later on in September.
No chance, man. This is the fight that truly all fans have been waiting for, right? Like everybody wanted to see these two guys who have talked about it, and we're trying to even make the fight happen between themselves, right? You mentioned that shit with Top Rank and how it killed a lot of negotiations for big fights for Crawford, which might lead to an advantage. And here's my next question that I posed to you. This is going to be Spence's 5th pay-per-view fight. So he's been accustomed to fighting in front of big arenas, being a headliner, and fighting under the lights with the pressure of the belts being on the line, right? Crawford, on the other hand, this is going to be his 4th or his 3rd. This also is going to be his biggest payday as a headliner. Do you think he has enough in him, right? As a guy who's mostly fought in his own state, being in Vegas, being with the hype of the fight, facing a guy like Spence, do you think he'll be able to shine under the bright lights?
I love the question, and it shows the conversations we've had, because that's right up my alley. You know, big time. Just like Santana Mouse says, big time players make big time plays in big time games. Baby. And those lights in Vegas are different. I can attest to it. It's just a different vibe. I saw it with Canelo Alvarez at 23 years of age. I've seen it with Caleb Plant as the most recently when he came out for his big first pay-per-view fight, and it was Canelo on the other side. It's just something about those Vegas lights, something about that atmosphere that is just different. And unless you've experienced it, you just don't know. It's Madison Square Garden comes close to it, and Vegas is by far the leader. Those two stepping into that ring, T-Mobile Arena, July 29th, it's going to be powerful, and it's going to be full of fireworks. But these two guys, I don't think one has more experience than the other as far as like big fights. I'm not, to be honest, their resumes aren't overwhelmingly impressive, even though we did mention that Spence's is more impressive than Crawford's. But I don't think it's going to have that type of effect on Crawford in this case. I think Bud comes from grimy Nebraska, used to it. I don't anticipate this phasing him. He doesn't strike me as one of those fighters. But then again, I'm one that has totally bought into that notion and believes that there is something different about Vegas. But we shall see. I don't anticipate that from Bud. It doesn't strike me like that type of fighter. But it'd be interesting, something to pay attention to, because it's all lights and it's very bright come Vegas time.
Yeah, man, and like you said, there's gonna be a lot of high-profile people in the room, in the building, right? That day for sure. So that adds some of the pressure. You bring a couple of friends that you're rappers or basketball players or something like that, and you bring them over to come watch you fight. Puts a lot of pressure on you, right, to perform, even though you already have that internal pressure to be a champion and make some history. Now, on the flip side, for Errol Spence Jr., you know, he's known for his motor, his strength, his ability to last throughout a fight without really getting fatigued. Do you think he can secure a finish here? Because he hasn't really stopped anybody since that KO on that knockout against Lamont Peterson, which forced him to retire. It wasn't even like a clean knockout. Does he have that in him to stop a guy like Crawford?
Well, he was able to get that stop against Ugas because of the right that eye. Stoppage. It was just extremely swollen. They had to call that to a halt. But I'd like this fight to go the distance. I don't see either guy finishing, but I'm well aware that they can. It just styles make fights, and maybe this is the right fight for Spence or the right fight for Crawford. I anticipate it, as I mentioned, going the distance. I like Spence by decision. And I'm thrilled that we get to run it back one more time after this, and hopefully we get a trilogy out of it. But I wouldn't be totally shocked if one guy stops the other. It's just the power that they both possess. So I'm not putting it past them. Despite, if I'm a betting man and I'd be in Vegas, I'd go with the decision, split decision for Spence over Terrence Crawford. But wouldn't be shocked. Wouldn't be shocked at all. I just don't see it happening for either guy.
Got you. Got you. Now I got to ask you a personal question before we wrap up. I know you got Spence in the fight by unanimous decision. We can wrap up on that. But, Spence Jr. had a chance to fight Manny Pacquiao. They had talked, way back when about fighting and stuff, and it never materialized. Do you think that could be considered one of the biggest fights that he missed an opportunity on, right? And if it would have happened, who do you think would have won at that time? A younger Earl Spence Jr. coming up in the rankings, or a seasoned Hall of Famer like Manny Pacquiao?
First, I will say that Manny Pacquiao, 8th division world champ.
I know that's your boy, dog.
And what he's done will most likely never be seen again. Just to let me reiterate that 8th division world champ. That's look, Roy Jones Jr., my favorite fighter of all time, only has 4 divisions. And Del Hoya was right under him, or the closest to Manny Pacquiao has 5 divisions. It's just something I don't think we'll see again. And a prime Manny Pacquiao, the only person I think beats Manny Pacquiao in his prime is Floyd Mayweather Jr., and it's because of the counterpuncher Floyd Mayweather is, and the recklessness that at times Manny Pacquiao showed coming in, as we saw against Juan Manuel Marquez in that 4th fight. Yeah. But prime Manny Pacquiao against Earl Spence Jr. No, I don't even think it'd be close. I think it's Manny Pacquiao easily, and who knows if it could very well happen, be by knockout, if not TKO. Now, do I think he missed on an opportunity to fight Manny Pacquiao? Absolutely not. We're not talking about the same Manny Pacquiao. We're talking about a Manny Pacquiao who was beat by Ugas. We're talking about a Manny Pacquiao who is now president in the Philippines, or is he president, or he ran for president?
He ran for presidency. I know he was in the government for sure.
He holds that high position up there, and it's in the Philippines, and it's just not the same Manny Pacquiao. It's not the same guy that we saw running through guys, whether it be Miguel Cotto or Ricky Hatton or Shane Mosley. It's just not the same guy, and he's not built the same. But in his prime, it was nobody better.
Yeah,
except for Floyd Mayweather Jr.
It's crazy to think that, because then the reason why I thought about that as well is because I wonder what the effect would have had for Spence Jr.'s career, right? Like, would have flipped a switch on him like it kind of did for Canelo once he fought Mayweather, right? Where he got that lesson and was able to traject himself into another atmosphere. And I wonder if that would have happened to Spence Jr., fighting a guy like
I don't know Pacquiao. If Pacquiao. Yeah, I see the point of the question, and I understand. I just don't think Manny Pacquiao is in that time period. Floyd
no, I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about like in 2000. I think it was 2018. So Pacquiao would have been
even then. I think Manny Pacquiao. The best of Manny Pacquiao was between that age, between 2000 and 2010. Maybe a few more years after that. I don't think. And Spence was obviously way too young. But if we're going to compare eras, even at that point, you take prime Earl Spence and you put him against prime Manny Pacquiao, as I said, I just don't think it's close. He was just that damn good.
Yeah. So you got Spence by unanimous decision, right? Split decision. Okay.
Somebody's going to give it to Crawford.
If Bud wins the fight, does he win by a stoppage, a knockout, or the decision?
I think he'll win by the decision as well. I don't think look. I could be wrong, and for entertainment purposes, hopefully I am. But I just don't see these guys being able to knock out each other. They're just so elusive. They box so beautifully, and I think they'll be able to avoid some big time damage from either guy. But I just do think the wear and tear and Spence's volume towards the end will do that. Look, there's that famous shot of Terrence Crawford late in the rounds against Sean Porter, and his corner tells him, "Hey, you're down in the fight. You're down in the fight." And then he comes in and scores that knockout. But there's times that Terrence Crawford just either he starts slow or he takes some rounds off. And this is Errol Spence Jr. we're talking about, the best welterweight in the division. I think the winner of this fight is clearly the top pound for pound fighter. That's Terrence Crawford at the moment right now. I know in the ESPN top pound for pound rankings, Errol Spence Jr. falls inside that top 5. I think he's at 4. And something I brought up as well, where would he rank after this fight if he does win? And Terrence Crawford didn't hesitate, said he'd be right up there at the top. He'd overtake him as a top pound for pound fighter. So should be fun to watch, despite if there isn't a knockout or if there is.
I think, call me crazy, dog, but I really do think that Spence has a chance to knock him out. And the reason why I say that, right, is because I think Bud is going to want to make a point of proving that he has the more power. And both of these guys in the back of their mind might be willing to go a little bit more for a knockout than they're accustomed to, especially against a dangerous opponent because of the automatic rematch happening no matter what, right? So it may allow them to take a little bit more risk than what they're accustomed to in their title fights. That's the only reason why I think we could see a knockout.
I would, if that's the route we're going, I would totally disagree. If I have to pick one fighter over the other to score the knockout, I see Terrence Crawford being able to score that knockout. It's just his the way he approaches fights, and we mentioned it numerous times. He's the greatest finisher in the game.
Yeah, ton of power,
right there behind him. But it's just when he smells it, and that's why he's big on going fishing and hunting those sharks, and that's what he says that he's going to do to Earl Spence Jr. He's going to hunt that shark because once he smells that blood, it's lights out. He's very impressive when he's got you hurt. So if I have to pick one guy to score the knockout, it'd be Terrence Crawford. No question about it.
Yeah, I see it. I can see it, man. But like you said, bro, I hope we get entertained. I'm glad that we already know we get to see this fight again, right? Yeah. And definitely we got to see this one together. I know you're going to be in Australia when this one goes down, covering the Women's World Cup.
Rematch for sure, my man. Rematch, I'll be there. I'm not missing that rematch for nothing.
Dale, dog, we'll be there. We'll be there, man. We'll be there. Vic, I appreciate you, bro. Let the people know where they can follow you while you're doing that coverage out there in Australia.
All social media is the same, man. At Vic Bermudez, VIC, my last name, BERMUDZ. That's Twitter, Instagram. That's where I'm at. That's where you'll find me. Coverage from Australia. And then get back in 2 weeks. We're right back into cane season. In 3 weeks, it's NFL. So
we're on it, baby.
The grind doesn't stop.
We're on it, baby. And that's why I love it. Vic, I appreciate you, my dog. Thank you so much, man, for joining us again.
Thank you, brother.
That's Victor Bermudez, y'all. Y'all know he's a highly legend, but he's also an Emmy-winning producer. So when we bring guys like this on, trust me, everything that they're saying is 1,000% legit. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification so you guys don't miss out on these interesting interviews. Until next time, it's your boy So. Peace.